Hello there. Tonight on Joynews Prime, 2 ministers of state confirmed Joynews report that they are currently in isolation at the University of Ghana Medical Center awaiting COVID-19 tests results after showing some symptoms of the virus. Also, 40 people arrested for failing to wear face masks as Ghana police intensify quote Operation Wear Your Face Mask.
We were able to arrest 40 persons. And all these persons were brought to the police station. Their various statements were taken from them.
And the church fights back tonight, criticizing government for selective application of the law on COVID-19 restrictions.
And yet they said for church, we must only meet for 1 hour. And some churches, when they met during the lockdown, they have been jailed. And yet these people are doing what they don't need to do. It is like 4 less bad, 2 less good.
We have more on this and in business tonight.
Well, first 1,000 applicants for government's 1 billion stimulus package begins assessing funds from NBSSI. But the details later in business.
And Sandra will be joining us with the details of that business story. But on your election headquarters, Dr. Samuel Kwejo-Nyama, Member of Parliament for KWADASO, joins the list of incumbent NPP MPs who have lost their seats as Dr. Kingsley Nyako emerges winner from today's primaries.
Support from my other competitors, Dr. S.K. Nyama and Mr. Vincent Meno, we will be able to work together in unity and in peace for the benefits of the constituents, the benefits of the region, and for the benefit of the nation.
My name is Gifty Andopia. We're live in our studios here in Kukumlimli on digital address GA0992539. On digital terrestrial TV, we are also live and we're free to air. The bulletin is also live on DSTV 421, GoTV 144. Please stay with us. You're welcome to Joynews Prime. Now, Ghana has recorded 445 new cases of coronavirus, taking the total confirmed cases to 15,013, with recoveries at 11,078. The active cases are now 3,840 and deaths remain 95. 6 patients are in critical condition, 4 are on ventilators and 24 are in severe stages of the virus. Those are the latest on our coronavirus figures. Education Minister Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh and Minister for Regional Reorganization Dan Kweku-Botwe have confirmed Joynews reports that they are currently on isolation at the University of Ghana Medical Center after displaying COVID-related symptoms. The two have released 2 separate statements indicating that they are awaiting results for COVID-19 tests. I will take you through the statements right now. This is from the Minister for Education. It says the Minister for Education, Honorable Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh, announces that he is currently detained at the University of Ghana Medical Center, UGMC, in Accra. On Tuesday, 16th of June 2020, he underwent various tests, including COVID-19, after feeling unwell for a couple of days. He tested negative for the virus, and this informed his decision to travel to his constituency for his acclamation on Saturday, 20th of June 2020. The statement goes on to say that following Dr. Matthew Opoku-Prempeh's return to Accra, he still felt unwell and so decided to check himself in for further tests, including a second test for COVID-19. Although the results are out, he has been detained at the UGMC as a precautionary measure. I think the statement wants to say that although the results aren't out, he has been detained at the UGMC as a precautionary measure for further observation due to his condition. And it goes on to indicate who signed that letter, and it is the press secretary, Rodney Nkrumah. Boateng, who signed that statement. And let's go to the Member of Parliament for the Okre constituency, Dan Boche. He says this is to inform the general public that I'm currently on admission at the University of Ghana Medical Center upon feeling unwell earlier this week. I have undertaken several tests, including tests for COVID-19, and await results. I will endeavor to inform the general public about my result when I am informed of it. Thanks, Dan Boche, MP. Simply put, that way. So those are the statements released. One released earlier this afternoon, one released later this evening, confirming the status of those ministers. Well, nobody wants to be a statistic, and that's how an online list of over 50,000 people who have been killed in Brazil ends. For many of us alive today, it could be a matter of when and not if, as Ghana's coronavirus statistics show a rather disturbing trend. A pharmacist of over 22 years of practice has been putting the figures together. I spoke to him a while ago. He is Kwame Sapong Esiedu, a PhD holder from the Ghana Center for Democratic Development. Here are his thoughts on Ghana's coronavirus cases so far.
Today is the 101st day since we recorded our first case. And as we were trying to get on air, it emerged that currently Ghana has 15,013 cases, up by 445 cases. If you put that in context, 445 cases is equivalent to what we registered in close to a month when we first had our COVID cases. And I've been looking at the statistics, and it scares me. Why does it scare me? It does because if you look at the last 3 months, our positivity test percentage has gone up from 5.45, which was the average. From 3.45, which was the average, to 5.25, which is a 52% increase, which means that more people are testing positive, which is an indicator of community spread. But more importantly, in the last 2 weeks, based on the data I've just pulled on the new figures, which came out about 45 minutes ago, 17.9% of all Ghanaians who are tested for COVID test positive. And that is a scary percentage because that is close to 3 times more than our average percentage. So it is basically deceptive to rely on the average percentage as quoted on the Ghana Health Service website to say 5 in 10 or 6 in 10 of all Ghanaians test positive. In actual, get it off, 5 in 100 or 6 in 100 test positive. In actual fact, it is 16 in 100 testing positive now. And that should be concerning to us because what it basically means is that our streets are not safe. Because what it tells anybody is that community spread is rife.
What do the statistics you've just shared with me tell about our case management?
When you want to look at case management, you've got to look at 2 things. One is your active case build, and the other is your case mortality ratio. Your active case build is the number of active cases that you are building up because that has an impact on the overrun of your health system. Because Ghana changed its discharge protocol, which was correct, and therefore is discharging 14 days after because it's known that between 8 and plus 3 days, which is 11 days, most people who are infected with COVID cannot actually transmit the virus to anyone else. But that doesn't mean they've recovered. It only means they are not a risk to society. But their personal health challenge is still ongoing. Our active case count dropped significantly to around 3,000. But anyone who's cared to watch would realize that because our recoveries are never the same as our new cases, since we did the readjustment, which I called a rebasing, our active case count has started building. As I speak to you now, it's gone back to 3,840, which is huge. After the rebasing, we've gone up by almost 400 active cases. And that tells me that we are not controlling this pathogen as well as we would want to. When it comes to our inability to deal with it, yes, across Africa, you can say it was predicted. When it comes to mortality, still, you'd say our mortalities are relatively low, although unofficially, some of us know the mortalities are higher than what has been reported. And I say that without any fear of contradiction, because even the Ghana Health Service has been clear in saying that they are actually auditing our mortalities.
But if I may just come in, they have said, Occupy Ghana raised this particular concern and said that they suspected suppression of data. The Ghana Health Service came out to refute that point. They said that they were not suppressing the data, and the figures and how it's reported, there may be some inconsistencies there because of the processes that they have to go through before they essentially get to the national.
Yes, and that's the point I'm saying. I'm alluding to that fact. In all honesty, I shift more towards the Occupy Ghana view than I shift towards the Ghana Health Service view.
Okay.
But to play the midline, irrespective of which view you agree with, you would know that there are deaths that are not reported because there is a process. And if you've read the Ghana Health Services response to the first Occupy Ghana press release, and Occupy Ghana's response to Ghana Health Service following a meeting after Ghana Health Service's rebuttal, the Ghana Health Service clearly accepted that there was a lag of about 2 weeks in the reporting of our death count in Ghana. But what you have to know is every day, and I don't worry about pushback, every day in Ghana, someone dies of, with, or from COVID. I have made those three distinctions because of the disaggregation of the data, which I think is bizarre. I don't want to go into the semantics of these arguments. For me, it's immaterial. But the bottom line is our death count is not 95.
How many do you think it is?
I wouldn't want to put a number out.
Our death count is not 95, he says. Well, still talking about coronavirus and how it has changed our life. Most Reverend Paul Kwabena is chairman of the Christian Council. He's standing by to talk to us. But why? It's because tonight the church is upset. They're talking about what they call selective application of the law on restrictions to prevent COVID-19. The founder and general overseer of the PRIMARIES Chapel International, Bishop Charles Ajinasari, says it is unfair that the same law is applied to people differently when church activities continue to be restricted, but it seems political activities are not. Also, President of the Full Gospel Church International, Bishop Samuel Mensah, criticized politicians for seeking only their political interest.
a rally or what have you of the NPP. And look at this, no social distancing, no face masks. All these things is going to increase the rise of the COVID, and it will multiply. And in the next 2 weeks, we may probably have another 5,000 rise up. Now we are around 13,000, 14,000. In 2 weeks from this situation, it's going to increase by 5,000 more. And unfortunately, when they come to church, then they will say that it is the church that has produced this. And they have stayed there for more than 2-3 hours. And yet they said for church, we must only meet for 1 hour. And some churches, when they met during the lockdown, they have been jailed. And yet these people are doing what they don't need to do. It is like 4 legs bad, 2 legs good. If the law is the law, everybody must obey the law. And I want you to understand, whether you see me by video or by any media, don't follow the politicians. They are not thinking about your well-being. I'm saying politicians, whether NDC politicians or MPP politicians or WXYZ politicians, they don't care about you. They care about their election. And whether you are alive or not, whether 1 million people die, they don't care. So don't follow them. Don't follow them. Wife your children, because nobody will take care of them for you. May God give us wisdom. May God guide us.
Morning, I was chatting with Bishop Duncan Williams. You see, this coronavirus, he said it's not just normal. He said it's a satanic agenda. Make sure that people will not go to church again. Is it not amazing to you that people are they are okay to go and vote in primaries? They are not afraid they'll get coronavirus. They are okay to go to the market. They are not afraid they'll get coronavirus. They are okay to go to the supermarket. They are okay to sit in trotro. They are okay to sit in a taxi. They are okay to go everywhere. But when it comes to church, it is like they are at the gate of the church. We are distributing coronavirus. That is what the devil is made people to think. And you see, there are some churches, they are saying, hey, we want to wait. We ask for us. Hey, we want everything to finish when everything is gone. There are some, by the time everything is gone, you don't have a church anymore. Because already the devil has brought cobwebs in the mind of many Christians.
Reverend Charles Janasari there. Let's get on the line now. Like I said, I'm on Zoom with Most Reverend Dr. Paul Kwabena Boafo, Chairman of the Christian Council of Ghana and Presiding Bishop of my church, the Methodist Church. Sir, thank you very much for your time this evening. I just want, this is pretty much a blunt way to put it. A number of the pastors are complaining about what they say is selective application of the law on restriction. Is that a position that the Christian Council share?
Thank you very much, and good evening to your cherished viewers and all who are listening. This is the concern of the Christian religious bodies. Let me put it that way, the religious bodies, because it came up on Saturday evening and Sunday morning. We saw these videos and we felt that it was not right, it was not proper. Things had not gone well with these primaries and how they were held with regards to the protocols in place. And then I'll say that yes, indeed, it's what the religious bodies are saying.
So that's the position of the Christian Council as well. And if you could, if you can just summarize that for me. We've heard what the other pastor said. What exactly is this position? What do you want?
Right. Our position is the observance, the observance of the protocols as compared to what is being done with the churches. The churches are asked to go through a lot of protocols, hand washing, taking temperatures, taking data, and then all others, the social distancing in the church, then even as to how to sing, as to how to give offering and all that. All these things were detailed out by the Minister of Chieftaincy and Religious Affairs. And so all of us agreed to go by them. Those who were ready to reopen the churches, we all went through, the chapels were disinfected and all that. And so you could say that it was orderly and everything went on well. None of us said that they were not going to comply. For that one, I can vouch for that. But we come to the primaries on Saturday, and what we see on television screens and what we saw by our naked eyes is just the directly opposite of it. And we felt that it was not right.
Okay.
That's our concern. And in the first instance, when the restrictions were given, some people who flouted, who went against the president's rule, were also arrested. And that one, we all condemned it because we felt that they had disobeyed. They had gone against what the head of the nation had said.
Okay, so Most Reverend, if I can just step in here briefly, I just want to know, is the church specifically asking for arrest of these people who, in your view, broke the COVID-19 protocols, or is the church asking for some level of equality where the church is allowed to freely mingle and more time to fellowship?
We are saying that can the government come to explain and tell us something about it, what has happened? Because how do you even arrest all these people? That one, I don't think it's even possible to do it. It's not, yeah. So what is the government coming to say about it? Right. And I know that the religious body's standpoint is that we have presented our case to government. And we know that they are studying and they are looking at it in terms of the 1 hour service and then the 100 member ceiling or the cap for people who can attend church service. We have presented our alternatives to the government. So we are all waiting. We are waiting for the next major address by the president, maybe in July. So we were all surprised to see that even with this one, all the people are out there celebrating, hugging, shaking hands and all that. So if the government could also come out and say, oh, this one, it has just gone beyond us and we just, I think something
you want some sort of explanation from the church. Finally, finally, Most Reverend, I just want to find out the churches or leaders of churches that were arrested for breaching the COVID-19 protocols. You've been referring to them. Most of the pastors have too. Are you demanding their release as well in the face of what has just happened?
Well, the law as at then was what brought them into that. So with this one, can the government then revisit it? Can we revisit and say that, well, this is something that is also beyond our control? Can we then give a pardon? Can we then give a pardon? I think that one will also go a long way.
Okay.
Go a long way because for what has happened now, it's just not a good thing that the churches can take. Yeah.
Dr. Most Reverend Paul Kwabena-Boafo, thank you very much for your time this evening. He's a chairman of the Christian Council, and also presiding bishop of the Methodist Church of Ghana. which happens to be my church. All right, you're still watching Joynews Prime. We'll take a very quick break, but still to come, 40 people have been arrested for failing to wear face masks as the Ghana police intensify Operation Wear Your Face Mask.
We were able to arrest 40 persons, and all these persons were brought to the police station. Their various statements were taken from them.
Welcome back to Joynews Prime, and time now for business. Sandra Esinamafeno is joining us from home. Sandra.
Hi, Gifty. How are you doing? Long time.
I'm blessed. Tell us what's happening in business.
Well, a lot to talk about, but a lot of businesses are getting some sort of support from the stimulus package, and we have that in business. Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Sandra Esinamafeno. As always, I'm here for business. The National Board for Small-Scale Industries has begun disbursement of funds from the 1 billion city stimulus program for the first 1,000 applicants of the scheme. The program, which is earmarked towards alleviating the negative impact of the coronavirus, has received about 500,000 applications since it was launched last month. The first disbursement, which was done today, is for applicants on the micro-small scheme, also known as the ADOM loans. There's more in the following report.
The initial disbursement comes a few days after the National Board for Small-Scale Industries, NBSSI, announced a 6-day extension to the application process. Even though the disbursement has commenced, potential businesses affected by the impact of the coronavirus pandemic are still allowed to apply before the end of the extension day. Executive Director of the NBSSI, Kosi Yankee Aye, has been explaining the criteria used in the selection process.
We did an allocation based on population across the nation in terms of what percentages are in each region. Then you look at also those who are in productive engagement within those regions, in all the 16 regions. Based on that, we looked at a second one, which is those who are applying, percentages that are applying, right? And based on those percentages, you are allocated to various beneficiaries, since we wanted to showcase the process to you and show you the first 1,000 beneficiaries. We did the allocation of all the 16 regions based on the number and the process we wanted to show to you, which is those who within the first few weeks of the application had done it. And so that is exactly what we showed you. We showed you based on the numbers, those with the right information, those within the first month of opening the process had put in, based on the percentage, based on population census, based on productive engagement, and that is what you have. So that's how we selected it.
The funds, which are being transferred through the Ghana Interbank Payment System, is managed by telecom operator Vodafone. Head of Mobile Financial Services at Vodafone, Martin Obeje, has assured safety of the system.
The set of activities that we do is, because the system is not designed for people to defraud, what happens is that we pick the mobile number that was used to register. So the mobile number that you put in as your mobile money receipt number, we pick that number. We take that number into a central repository, which is by GIPS. And then we put in that number to verify whether your name, Kojo Mensah, plus the mobile number you provided is the same Kojo Mensah registered to that mobile number that is in the system.
The interest on the soft loan facility remains at 3%.
Holland Life Insurance has joined calls by industry players to extend the deadline for meeting the new minimum capital requirement for insurance companies, even though insurers have up to June 2021 to meet the requirement. Director of Holland Life, Nasiru Idrisu, says the effects of the coronavirus pandemic should be enough reason for the NIC to reschedule their deadline.
The impact of COVID-19 on the economy is unfolding with every passing day, and it's quite difficult to really understand the complete effect. The insurance sector is also impacted with premium collections falling, given the prevailing restrictions. It is for this reason that the managing director of Hollard Life, Nasiru Idrisu, is supporting calls for extension of the June 2021 deadline for meeting the new minimum capital requirements set by the regulator.
I think that Ghana is not in isolation as far as the impact of COVID is concerned. Other countries have started doing this already. Our regulator is very responsive, and already there are a lot of work going on now. And I believe pretty soon there will be some announcements to that effect here. Remember, we are a global giant, and we have the capacity, we have the pedigree to meet it. However, as I said, the COVID's impact is not just peculiar to Ghana. It's across board. Our regulator is listening, is watching and know what is happening. The extent that is affecting businesses, they will definitely be responding to this appropriately.
He was speaking at the Hollard Molcom Partnership launch, which seeks to sell Hollard insurance products using the Molcom shops across the country as retail centers. Patience Achianu is Group CEO of Hollard Ghana.
With this partnership, many households who previously did not have access to insurance products will start easily being able to access insurance, and this will contribute significantly to the very low insurance penetration that we currently have in Ghana. And what this seeks to do is to provide insurance products across selected Molcom shops in the country via what we call Hollard on-the-go booths.
On his part, Group Chairman of Molcom Ghana, Bhagwan Kupchandani, says the outbreak has rather had a positive impact on the sale of essential items at his outfit.
It's still a busy place. It's true, we are not selling very many expensive items, but in food and beverages, we are doing better than we were doing before. It's true, in some segment, sales have gone down. It's bound to happen. When you are not happy, you don't want to go and buy an expensive piece of electronic or furniture. You don't want to do that. You're not in that kind of a mood.
Nice. Yes.
That's very romantic.
We move to the Ashanti region now, and as the COVID-19 case count continues to increase, metropolitan and municipal authorities are warning they may be compelled to close down market centers in the Ashanti region where traders flout COVID-19 safety protocols. Similar action was taken during the period of the partial lockdown to enforce social distancing to contain the spread of the virus. The Asante Hene himself is embarking on a campaign to encourage adherence. Nana Sensu Mensah has more in the following report.
The Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly is collaborating for 2-4 Charity Foundation in the program with funding from MasterCard Foundation. It seeks to promote personal hygiene in addition to social distancing to control the spread of COVID-19. Dr. Thomas Ejakupoku is Executive Director of 2-4 Charity Foundation.
This is a serious pandemic. Menshia, from the beginning of this COVID, has been part of it. But we think that at this point, we have examined the main issues and we think that we must step in. And we have identified social distancing at our marketplace as a potential threat to the fight of COVID-19. And that is why Utumfo, with all Nananum, are stepping in. And we are specific. We think that with our influence, we can speak to our people. We are not stopping them. We are also providing sanitizers, soap and water, and Veronica bucket to ensure that not only do they distance themselves, they also wash their hands as the protocol demands.
KMA Chief Executive Oses Benchi charged market queens to lead a crusade against the disease by enforcing preventive measures at the markets or have them closed beginning of next month.
From Monday going, we'll be going out there. This time, not only KMA will be going, but we'll be going out there with the representatives of Otumfuo Osetutu II. He is the owner of the land. He gave us the land, and we are working on the land. And he is the owner of the region. So now he himself has waved into the fight. So we are all going there to observe whether the traders are complying. In fact, any market that refuse to comply, we will have no other direction to go rather than to close it down. So that is why we are preempting them. We are cautioning them that we don't want to close any market, but if they should fail to comply, then we will not do any other thing apart from closing it down.
Meanwhile, the KMA has served notice of an impending decongestion exercise to raid the pavement of traders. Leader of Kajetia Petty Traders Association, Nana Prempeh, commits to the cause even before the assembly descends on defiant members.
And with this advent of the COVID, pedestrians are not to be impeded on their walkways, but you realize that all the pedestrian areas have been taken over by the petty traders. So it is an admonishment on we, the leadership, that henceforth we must advise our people, especially my colleague traders, who are selling on the pedestrian ways, that they should vacate from there, because the Assembly has made provision for us in the other satellite markets. And I know that the Assembly is going to embark on a program to decongest us from the road. But I will take this opportunity to advise my colleagues on the stretches of the roads in Kumasi that it's high time we leave the roadside, and we are going to take it upon ourselves as leadership to also go down to talk to our people.
Nana Asensu Mensah reporting.
And that will be all for the first part of business. But Gifty, when I come back, the International Monetary Fund, IMF, has cut its global economic forecast for 2020. I mean, importantly, how is that going to affect your yam that you buy from Ivy, Gifty? I'll be telling you more.
Okay, you want to tell everybody that I buy yam from Ivy. That's okay. Free advert for her right away. Sandra, thank you. We'll be coming back to you soon. And we'll also be joining Oreku Ampofo with sports right after this. If you have been flagrantly refusing to wear your face mask, then this story is for you. 40 people around the Central Business District here in Accra are at the wrong side of the law for flouting the presidential directive on mandatory wearing of face masks in public spaces to stop the spread of COVID-19. According to the Ghana Police Service statements were obtained from them and they were released on bail. The Accra Region Police Public Relations Officer DSP Efia Tenge says the culprits are being processed for court. She spoke to me earlier.
So yesterday, the Railways operational team, led by the district commander himself, Mr. Asante, they had to embark on this operation that has been code-named Operation Wear Your Mask within the Central Business District. And it was within this area because we know that a lot of people thrown in for business activities, people coming in to buy a lot of stuff here and there. So we see a lot of people in the market area. And so if we have to enforce the mask, the wearing of masks, it means that one of the areas that the police should be targeting is the Central Business District. So this was done within the peripheries. Here we're talking about the TMB and also an area like the railways itself, Katamanto, Rollins Park, and the rest. And after the operation, we were able to arrest 40 persons. And all these persons were brought to the police station. Their various statements were taken from them. And then later in the day, they had to be granted police inquiry bail for them to report. And I'm told that this morning they have been reporting, and the police is still processing them and seeing the next line of action to take against these persons.
That's DSP Efia Tenge. She speaks for the Accra Region Police, talking to me earlier. On Tuesday, the Minister for Information, Kojo Nkrumah, urged the police to give purposive interpretation of the law that requires the rest of the people driving alone in vehicles without wearing face masks. Let's get on Zoom and talk to Samson Ladi Anyenene, who is a private legal practitioner. Samson, thank you very much for your time this afternoon. Now, you are convinced that framers or drafters of the law did not do a good self-explanatory law.
what they omitted to do was that I was expecting a nuanced legislation that will take full account of the science of the good and dangers, if any, in the wearing of masks. But what they did was to just do a broad general drafting, which in law we may call lazy drafting. Lazy drafting because there are people who simply cannot have the mask on, or sometime they will not be able to have the mask on, and yet they will have to be in a public place, or they will have to be leaving their home or returning to their home. There are people who are asthmatic. Supposing they are having a situation because of their asthmatic, situation, you cannot expect such people to wear a mask.
So, Samson, if you're still there, you have indicated that they'll have to rewrite correct me if I'm wrong, to rewrite this law that essentially gives it a better explanation and makes it easier to implement. Okay, we've lost Samson there, but I hope that the little that he shared with us gives you a quick idea or a brief idea into exactly what he thinks and what he believes ought to be done. Oreku Ampofo is standing by with sports. Hi, Oreku.
So the biggest story on the African continent is that the South African government have given the PSL the go-ahead to resume the suspended season, and the league's executive committee had been waiting for the government to approve their return to play proposal for the past few weeks following the adoption of the tax team's reports by the Joint Liaison Committee in May. Now, in a statement released today, the Sports Ministry said that the PSL's plans had been subject to analysis by health authorities and as well as the National Institute of Communicable Diseases. Now, the two bodies then recommended that measures put in place by the league and in some instances exceeded the expectations. And in the statement, it said that the plans of the Premier Soccer League have been approved, and considering the mitigation strategies and plans in relation to the Level 3 risk-adjusted strategy in addressing the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, the plans have further been subject to analysis by the health authorities, and the PSL is now expected to release their own statement to confirm when competitive football will get underway. They are also set to announce the province and venues while the remaining matches would be played according to that report. But then the news coming in is that all the 32 teams have been busily conducting tests for their players and officials. And so far, there have been 10 confirmed positive cases in the PSL. So that might put a halt to that, but we'll be getting development on that story as well in our subsequent bulletins. But in some other stories and some international news, Manchester United did beat Sheffield United by 3-0. Anthony Martial scoring a hat-trick, their first ever hat-trick since Alex Ferguson left the club. So that's 7 years since they've seen a hat-trick now. And in games being played, Liverpool are currently leading against Crystal Palace. And I think that would be it for the sports segment here on Prime. I'll be back with more stories on the second segment. My name is Ray Kwampofo.
You're welcome back, and on to your election headquarters now. Member of Parliament for KWADASO in Kumasi, Dr. Samuel Nuyama, has joined the list of incumbent legislators to fall at NPP primaries. He was defeated by Executive Director of the National Accreditation Board, Dr. Kingsley Nyako, with 172 votes against 158. The third candidate, Vincent Frimpong Menu, Deputy Chief Executive of Middle Belt Development Authority, managed 42 votes. Elections had to be postponed to Wednesday after delegates challenged voter register being used for the elections. Nanaya Ojima was at the constituency and has filed this report.
So, I declare Dr. Kingsley Nyako as the parliamentary candidate-elect for KWADASO Municipal. Thank you.
World Jubilations welcomed announcement of Dr. Kingsley Nyakon as parliamentary aspirant for the KWADASO constituency for the New Patriotic Party. Supporters carried him shoulder high, disregarding all protocols of COVID-19. Even journalists were in breach as they struggled to get an interview with the winner after the declaration. Amidst the breach, Dr. Nyakon managed to speak.
They believe that I'm the person who will be able to ensure that the NPP becomes a very attractive party in the constituency and by extension in the region. I'm convinced and persuaded, but it's me at the helm of affairs with support from my other competitors, Dr. S.K. Nyama and Mr. Vincent Menu. We will be able to work together in unity and in peace for the benefits of the constituents, the benefits of the region, and for the benefit of the nation.
The constituency, after being carved out of the Bantima constituency, has always fallen for NPP. It is known for changing its aspirants. Madam Hilda Addo is first MP for the constituency. She served for one term. A Greek minister, Dr. Osuefri Akoto, did 2 terms before losing his re-election bid to now incumbent Dr. Nyama ahead of Wednesday's election. The voters' album had become a subject of controversy as names of some delegates were missing. Here is NPP Regional Youth Organizer who led a 3-member committee to resolve the issue.
We all came to the conclusion that all the 172 that were initially expunged from the 2013 album will be left out. And then those that were used to replace them were also left out of the election. Anybody who has died over time, anyone who has traveled out of the constituency, and one other person who defected from the NPP to NDC were all excluded from the album. So I believe that there's a bit of calm as we see this morning. Nobody is raising any alarms.
Most delegates who were unable to find their names in the register decided to let go for the sake of peace in the party. We have love for ourselves at KWADASO. We understand democracy. These are small internal issues.
And some misunderstanding be naba. Say after this election, we shall come together as one.
So, my friends, polling station chairman. Me polling center.
I am a polling station chairman. This man is my secretary. He traveled for some time and has returned, but we are all missing from the album. There was heavy police and military presence in the constituency to monitor the process. They were called to action when a confrontation ensued just before polls closed at Apatrapa polling station between supporters of the incumbent and the eventual winner. From Kumasi for Joynews, Nana Ojima reporting.
Now, 2 of 3 legal hurdles that the Electoral Commission must scale in order to carry out its planned registration of voters will be settled by the Apex Court tomorrow. The justices will decide whether the registration slated for June 30 should come off and whether the existing voter's ID and birth certificate can be used as proof of identification. A Deputy Attorney General, Godfred Yeboah-Dame, in his closing argument to the court today, described the current electoral roll as bloated. The court today also dismissed a request by 4 think tanks asking to join the case to provide information relevant to the determination of the matter. Court correspondent Joseph Akable reports.
But look, the laws have spoken, and we can't quarrel with that. We just have to live with it. But I hope that the decisions they arrive at eventually would be the decision that everybody can live with in this country. Otherwise, I'm just disappointed. I think my colleagues here equally disappointed. This was an introduction to how cases are determined in court. I was quite awed. I mean, at some point I was laughing all through.
The think tanks Imani Africa, Conservative Policy Research Center, Institute for Liberty and Policy Innovation, and the Alliance for Social Equity and Public Accountability had asked to be allowed to join the 2 cases. The NDC and private citizen Mark Tichibanson are asking the Apex Court to stop the AC from compiling the register or allow the use of voters' ID and birth certificates as proof of identification. Lawyer for the think tanks, Joe Debra, said they could assist the court with relevant information to help it resolve the matter. He was, however, stopped in his tracks by members of the panel who questioned whether they are indeed coming as friends of the court to assist it or as friends of a certain party in the case. Chief Justice Kwesi Eni-Nyeboa asked the lawyer whether he had read the two cases pending at the Apex Court. He responded that he had not read it but had only seen some affidavits. The Chief Justice asked how he could then conclude he can add something new to the court if he had not read the writs. Another member of the panel of justices, Paul Bafo-Boni, said the court was well aware of what the CSOs had been up to and is quite aware of their position on the matter. He said the processes filed shows they are not coming in to assist the court with any new information useful to concluding the matter, but rather coming to support a side. He remarked, quote, "You are not neutral," end quote, adding that they would have better served their interest if they had joined the party in the case they were actually supporting. Mr. Debra responded that they are asking to join as citizens who will be affected by the court's decision. Deputy AG Godfrey Dami and the EC's lawyer opposed the application, urging the court to dismiss it. The NDC's legal team opted to only say it had nothing useful to add, while Mr. Tichi Banson's lawyer took the same view. The court dismissed the application, holding that it was without legal basis. Franklin Kujo of Imani expressed surprise at the court's decision.
Look, the laws have spoken, and we can't quarrel with that. We just have to live with it. But I hope that the decisions they arrive at eventually would be the decision that everybody can live with in this country. Otherwise, I'm just disappointed. I think my colleagues here are equally disappointed. This was an introduction to how cases are determined in court. I was quite awed. I mean, at some point I was laughing all through. But I guess lawyers know their trade, and the judges also know their trade. So yes, we can't fault them. They did what they had to do. But I think that to suggest that the amicus was not neutral was a bit far-fetched.
He says this will not stop the group from going ahead with its activism.
Well, the suggestion that we should have joined the case is well taken. But the point also is that what does that mean for an amicus? You know, I mean, in other jurisdictions, people file amicus cases anyway, and they take positions. We do have an interest in the matter. I mean, I suspect that is why we actually decided to file the brief. So to suggest that the brief was not neutral, I don't understand the language. I think they probably didn't even read anything. But anyway, they made their decisions, and we can live with that.
Is this the end of the road for you in terms of your activism related to this particular issue?
Well, this is a country of law and order. I would think that the courts have decided what they have to decide. It doesn't stop us from activism. We'll keep on speaking about the matters because we think that these are critical matters of public policy. I think the courts have benefited soundly from sound public policy, but they chose differently. And so, well, here we are.
Once the court delivers its judgment on Thursday, the only pending case against the EC will be the one filed by a Shaman MP and Esnogbe, which is due at the High Court on Monday, June 29.
Welcome back to the show. Now, government of Ghana has accepted recommendation of a committee and pledged to reconstruct the demolished residence of the Nigerian High Commission following the unlawful invasion and vandalism of the property. The unlawful break-in has rocked diplomatic relations between the two West African countries as some Nigerian politicians begin to incite acts of reprisal in their home country. At a press conference today, Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration, Shelley Ayokoboche, said there may be tension in the diplomatic circles, but telephone conversations between leaders of the two countries and the display of commitment by Ghana to ensure justice is served are enough to calm nerves.
Of Nigeria presented a letter referenced SCR/LCS 74/VOL 2/95, which was dated 7th of August 2000, granting allocation and right of entry to the High Commission, a 4-acre parcel of land in the Accra-Osu-Manche layout. The High Commission of Nigeria further presented receipts of payments on the said land made by bankers' drafts payable to the Executive Secretary of the Lands Commission. However, land title certificates had not been issued to the High Commission. 2, the Lands Commission stated that the said 4-acre parcel of land is part of vested land which is owned by the Osu Stool and managed by the Lands Commission. In June 2019, the Osu Stool requested the Greater Accra Regional Lands Commission to grant a lease in respect of a part of the said land to a third party. The Lands Commission stated that per its processes of granting leases, its records did not reveal any previous transaction in respect of the land in question. The Lands Commission revealed that a letter of 4th July 2019, reference AC 14826, signed by the Regional Lands Officer and addressed to the High Commission of Nigeria, informed that the Osu Stool had requested the Lands Commission to grant a lease to a third party on the land in question. The Lands Commission therefore advised the High Commission of Nigeria to provide relevant documents on ownership of the land, but the former did not respond to the letter. Based on the silence of the High Commission of Nigeria, the Lands Commission went ahead and issued a land title certificate covering the said parcel of land to a third party. The Lands Commission has confirmed, however, that the letter of 7th August 2000, presented by the High Commission of Nigeria, granting allocation and right of entry to the High Commission, was genuine and indeed emanated from its head office. 7. Unfortunately, owing to the fact that the High Commission, the Nigerian High Commission, did not obtain a lease following the allocation letter or proceed to obtain a land title certificate or even a building permit for the new property that they were building, a search by the Lands Commission did not show that any proper documentation had been obtained in respect of the property, which is why they could not find any documentation on that piece of land.
Ernest Menu with that report. Now, government is to disburse a total of $9 million to small and medium-sized enterprises as well as other businesses operating in the tourism sector. The package, dubbed Ghana Tourism Development Project Grant Scheme, is financed by the World Bank, and according to the Tourism Ministry, it is expected to alleviate the plight of businesses, especially those in the tourism and art industry in the coronavirus era. Speaking on the sidelines of the launch of the scheme, the Minister for Tourism, Arts and Culture, Barbara Otin-Jesse, said the initiative will benefit over 1,000 small businesses.
The grant scheme that we have launched today is one component of the World Bank Ghana Tourism Development Project, which is a project that is funded by a World Bank facility obtained by the government of Ghana for the Ministry of Tourism to address identified challenges in the sector. Because the government has indicated that tourism is a pillar for transformation for the country, and therefore all efforts are being made to support the ministry to ensure that the sector grows. grows. So this grants component of the World Bank facility is going to all operators within the tourism value chain. SMEs, small, micro, and medium enterprises, to access the funding to improve their businesses, and through that also to get a boost in our tourism numbers. And this facility, $9 million, we estimate that we can support initially about 1,000 businesses. That is estimating about 50,000 per applicant. But what is reassuring is that the World Bank has indicated that if we are able to successfully implement this initial support, we can get additional funding under this grant component. So I would like to entreat all our businesses who will be applying that if you are successful, ensure that you use the funding for the intended purpose and generate the benefit from that. And it is from the post-implementation evaluation of the impact of this initial 9 million, which will enable us access more funding. No, this is a project that is ongoing, being implemented by the ministry, and under it there was this grant component. But fortunately or unfortunately, the implementation of the grant component has coincided with this COVID pandemic, which has impacted significantly our sector, and most of our businesses are suffering. So we see that through disbursement of this facility, it will bring the needed support to our businesses, aside from the other interventions that government is also providing to businesses generally. This is also going to support our businesses directly, and I think that it has come in good time.
Barbara Otinjesi there. The senior minister, Yao Safo-Mafo, added an initial amount of $9 million has hit the account, and the government is expected to get additional funds soon.
Today marks a very important milestone in the history of the country's tourism, arts and culture industry, as we launch the first ever tourism enterprise support program. This is the first time such a scheme is being implemented in the history of this country to support the tourism industry. The grant scheme, among others, aims at supporting registered individual enterprises and other enterprises operating in the tourism and hospitality sector. I think we got the good news that the initial capital of 9 million is just the initial capital, and if you apply and the promotion goes on and the change we all expect in the tourist industry takes place, definitely this will be the beginning, and there will be a lot more money put in. Indeed, normally when the World Bank finances a project, it's an initial sum. You expect other donors along the line to buy into it to make it bigger. So I would say that the operators of this should make a success out of it and will attract a lot more money into this whole enterprise.
It's open for the applications are open, so you can put in your bid at the website of the ministry now. Now, as schools across the country reopen after a long break as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, some students in the Bono East region are calling on authorities to hasten the supply of face masks to students to ensure their safety on campuses. They made this call when the Bono East Regional Minister Kofi Amwakohene visited some schools to ascertain for himself the implementation of the safety protocols. Correspondent Anas Sabit has more in this report.
The low number of students reporting for studies, especially the third years, after 2 months closure of schools due to COVID-19 restrictions, teachers say it's worrying.
And 104 candidates were to arrive. Yesterday we have been alert to get them in class and teach them. But by the end of the day, we have 3 students in school.
We are ready and waiting for the students to come. Because we know they will be coming, we have prepared and ever ready. So anytime they come in, we'll begin business. It's so demoralizing because, you know, the exam is not too far from now. And so we expect that the children will come in, you know, especially now that they are not paying fees. Government is taking care of everything. All they have to do will be to come into the school with their luggage. And so we are so disappointed that they are not coming.
For KWADASO Senior High School, official records say of 1,043 expected students, only 200 of them had reported Tuesday. Similar reports ran through 22 other senior high schools in the region. Teachers in schools operating as day or non-residential say feeding is becoming a challenge as no catering services are allowed on campus. The teachers argue that moving to and from town during break periods would disrupt their schedules.
No food. We are going to have classes 6 good hours without any break. If there will be break at all in the class, 15 minutes intervals. It will affect, we are not to go out and come back. Once you enter, you must stay on campus.
So what do you suggest?
I suggest teachers, you see, we have what we call hot meal for the students. They can add something so that teachers can also enjoy it.
Media reports suggest that some tertiary and senior high schools have already recorded positive COVID-19 cases. These, teachers have argued, should qualify them for some incentive packages. The Deputy OT Regional Minister, Maxwell Kofi Blagoji, has been reacting to that.
In the position to say whether they deserve it or they don't deserve it. They are also delivering all their, providing services to these children. Whether they are coming into contact with people who have COVID-19 or not, it's an issue of also delivering service that they think they deserve it. And what we can do now is to give them the assurance that whatever they are doing, there will be compensation for them at any cost.
Joynews can confirm that the 23 senior high schools in the OT region have received some amount of PPEs, although they argued not enough. Teachers can only appeal to parents to facilitate their wards' early return to school for preparation towards their final examinations. Peter Senu for Joynews.
And I need to quickly apologize for that story. Was rather Joynews visits and checks in senior high schools in the OT region, and what the report is. That's what our correspondent Peter Seno brought you there. We'll bring you that story tomorrow in our subsequent bulletins as well. This is still Joynews Prime. My name is Gifty. I'm Dopia. Take a quick break. When I return, Sandra Afeno joins me with business.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Business. My name is Sandra Esenam. The International Monetary Fund, IMF, has cast its global economic forecast for 2020. The fund says the coronavirus pandemic is causing a much deeper recession and a slower recovery than initially expected. As a result, the organization is predicting global GDP will contract by 4.9% from its initial 3% forecast in April this year. I have been actually engaging economist Professor Godfred Wappin on the new GDP figures, and he tells me the global picture is enough warning for government to begin exploring domestic sources for revenue generation.
I mean, it's as simple as saying that the sharp contraction also will reflect in income losses. Okay, so perhaps it's possible that you have your job secured, but of course, so many people are going to lose their jobs or they have lost their jobs. If you look at the lockdown, the productivity hours lost, it's translating to over 3 million full-time job losses. And that is very, very huge. If you look at it also within Sub-Saharan Africa alone, income losses is estimated to be in excess of $200 billion. So that is huge for all of us. Again, if you look at the global forecast that you have looked at, and the fact that Ghana is not an island, certainly it's going to drag our growth also back to some extent. We have had our own challenges with the lockdown, and even with the fact that we have eased the lockdown, people naturally are doing some kind of lockdown in order not to expose themselves here and there. So activities, traffic, movement has not reached pre-pandemic level. And therefore, so when output decelerates sharply like that, again, it has implications for consumption volatility and then income volatility. I think that we have to look within. Our own future depends on us. Of course, regardless of the helping hand that we can find, either from US, China, the best helping hand that we can ever find as a country is at the end of our own arm. So we have to look within. And then we have to make sure that we plug all the leakages in our revenue envelope and pursue efficiency in our expenditure patterns. I think that if you look at the deficit at the global level has increased. In fact, the GDP, in terms of, if you look at the extent to which fiscal deficit will translate to that, we are looking at the global level more than 7% and all of that. Of course, within Ghana government has found a very more enabling way of financing the deficit by roping in Bank of Ghana. I think that is a good move, and that should be sustained. But more importantly, we need to pursue efficiency and value for money and how going forward, and that way we'll be able to aid the recovery. Then it will also require some kind of realignment in terms of our budget. The global prediction gives Ministry of Finance a better perspective to also come out with their mid-year review, recalibrate the macro numbers, and then we'll have a fair idea of the extent to which the pandemic has affected us, and then also the recovery strategy. But of course, from the IMF report, it's obvious that we are not expecting a quick V-shaped recovery. The recovery is going to take a little longer than we thought.
We have the commodity news update now, and crude oil lost $2.27 to sell at $40.36 a barrel. More in the commodity news.
Thank you very much, Sandra, for that update in business. Let's do sports with Oreku Ampofo. Hello, Oreku.
Hi, Gifty. I can see Sandra smiling. And
I know. Gifty doesn't understand why I'm smiling.
I don't.
That's some good news for Liverpool. And you know I would definitely be excited.
Oh, okay. Now I know why. I know why you're laughing. Okay. What, Liverpool, right?
I've beaten Crystal Palace by 4-0. And what that if Man City failed to win, they would be crowned Premier League champions for the first time in 30 years. So incredible news for Liverpool fans. Let me, put congratulations in advance to all my Liverpool friends. Sandra,
thank you. We take them.
Oh, it's okay. And Sandra will go on and on and on.
All we do have is sports. The presidential advisor on health, Dr. Nsia Asare, has joined the call for the 2019-2020 Ghana football season to be truncated amid the coronavirus pandemic. Now, football activities have been suspended in the country since March due to the virus outbreak, which has over 14,000 cases recorded so far. The restart of football activities in the country has been in a limbo as the government is yet to ease its restrictions on the non-contact sport. Now, Dr. Nsia Asare, who advises the president on the pandemic status in the country, shared his thoughts on football amidst the pandemic. And according to him, the current season should have ended this month per the original calendar. For the season, thus, the break brought about by the pandemic should see the season being cancelled and restarted when it's safe to do so. He was quoted saying, "I would have personally wished the football season is truncated. It will be fair to end this season and begin if only the Ghana Football Association would agree to it," he added. Now, the FA have also come out to say that they are still engaging stakeholders on the future of the current season and has announced that it will make a decision on July 30th as to what the what the future of the Ghana Premier League would be. But certainly discussions are still ongoing there. But one that has been finalized outside Ghana is the New York City and Berlin marathons, which have been cancelled because of the global pandemic. Now, this year's New York City Marathon which was due to take place on 1st November, would have marked the 50th running of the event. And it is the world's largest marathon with 53,640 finishers in 2019. Now, the Berlin Marathon was also due to take place on 27th of September, but has been cancelled because the fun, joy, health, and success of participants cannot be guaranteed. Now, Michael Capiraso, who is the president and CEO of the New York Roadrunners, said that canceling this year's New York City Marathon is incredibly disappointing for everyone involved, but it was clearly the course we needed to follow from a health and safety perspective. Earlier in June, London Marathon organizers said that they have not given up hope of holding the event on October 4th. But as things do stand, both of these events have been cancelled so far. And before I do go, some updates on some games being played across Europe. And Real Madrid are currently leading Mallorca by 1-0. Liverpool, as I said earlier, cruising by 4-0. And Lazio, in a must-win match against Atalanta, are also leading by 2-1. But that wraps it up for the sports segment here. My name is Reiko Ampofu.
Oreku, enjoy the rest of the evening there and have fun. Oreku and all the Liverpool fans, well, I'm sure you are happy, just like Sandra is. We're on to Joynews Interactive right now. So let's get on social media. I'm talking Facebook, and the post we had there was about Imani Ghana going to court today. So essentially the story is that the Supreme Court Judge Justice Bafo Boni is saying the policy think tank Imani Africa and other civil society organizations that had attempted today to join the two cases against the compilation of a voters register by the Electoral Commission are not neutral. So we put it there. We took some of your comments. Let me read to you some of the comments. Goka Linda says, I'm really upset now. What kind of judicial system are we going to experience under this government? How could a Supreme Court judge, without sitting over the policy think tank brief, yet pass judgment of supporting NDC? And that post alone has about 8 replies. Bawa Abdul Razak, okay, let's click back on that and see what the rest of the stories are. Okay, so Bawa, I was taking Bawa, your message. Okay, so we'll just keep scrolling to bring you more of that. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are. You can still share your thoughts with us on the Facebook platform right there, and we will share it with the rest of the world, even if it's not on this particular show at the moment. Okay, so it's all about the Imani Africa going to court today, intending to join a suit that has been filed by the NDC. The Supreme Court tells them they are not neutral people. And we're taking some of your comments on the back of it. In the meantime, coronavirus cases have gone up. Over 400 new cases have been recorded. That is also making the rounds on social media. So we can go through the figures once again for you to just so you have an idea what the figures are. Indeed, we've had some recoveries as well. So let me quickly grab that for you. Okay, so we're looking at 445 new cases, 445 new cases. And we have, at the moment, people who have recovered at 11,078 people who have recovered there. But the active cases, 3,840, and the deaths remain 95. Total case remains 15,013 in Ghana. When we started with just about 1 or 2 cases in March, well, a handful of cases in March, we are now at 15,013. I'm going to take you back to Facebook. Let's find out some of the comments that you've been sharing with us. So I got to Bawa Abdul Razak, who said, I really don't get this bogus judgment for one reason. The CSOs made the point clear that they would present, that what they would present is a fact to buttress the case of NDC against the EC to avert travesty of justice. Nowhere did they say they are neutral. And you go on and on. Let's see what John Ayamga says. Nanado foresaw what is to come, and that is why he quickly failed the court with judges to turn over the case. I presume the EC already knows the outcome of the case in this. Well, you're making some very wild statement there. McLeod Nelson says, I'm not surprised of this, knowing very well that the elephant being the king of the jungle could be a mess. Okay, Denise Brown said, what criteria are they using to assess neutrality? They are setting a new precedence where an institution or organization can be tagged and their cases thrown out. Ghana, God have mercy. And finally, Ayi John says, during the NDC era, those at Lands Department and Judicial Service, did you know bad cases they ruled against some people in this country? I'm not sure the point you're making, but this one says, I'm praying that one of the social media lawyers and judges will be invited to the Supreme Court to answer questions since they know better than the judges. And if you want to know your real size, go and ask Sir John. It's been a pleasure coming your way with the news tonight. Log on to myjoyonline.com for more news. This has been Joynews Prime. Our top stories is our 2 ministers of state confirmed. Joynews reports that they are currently in isolation at the University of Ghana Medical Center awaiting COVID-19 test after they showed some symptoms of the virus. And 40 people arrested for failing to wear face masks as Ghana police intensify Operation Wear Your Mask. And tonight, the church has been fighting back, criticizing government for what they call selective application of the law on COVID-19 restrictions. And then we brought you business, where first 1,000 applicants for government's 1 billion stimulus package began accessing funds from the NBSSI. There's more news at myjoyonline.com. Like I said, including the fact that Dr. Samir Kwejo-Nuyama, Member of Parliament for KWADASO, joins the list of incumbent MPP MPs who have lost their seat as Dr. Kingsley Nyako emerged winner at the primaries today. My name is Gifty Ando Apia, and I hand you over to Evans Mensah with PM Express. Evans is anchoring from home right on the top of the hour at 9 p.m.